Puny mortals, dare you to enter into the Lich's Lair?
Hello! We're in the Lich's Lair now. Jeremy, I like that you started with the stinger. That was a great choice.
That was that was a good choice.
You
Welcome
guys
to
did
Lich's
different
Lair.
Things. One of you said hello, and the other one laughed maniacally. When I feel like you both should have done
one or the other.
Yeah.
Good Lich, bad Lich.
Yeah, that's usually. Usually, I'm playing the good Lich, but this time Jeremy's the good Lich, and I'm just gonna. I'm gonna go hard, Crowley. I'm coming at you, evil Lich.
All right.
Well, welcome to Lich's Lair. This is a segment of our show, where we take some awesome community content that has been submitted that is apparently polished and ready to roll. We're excited to look at it and evaluate it critically against our 5-point Fantasy Labs rubric. Will the contestant survive the Lich's Lair, or will another soul be claimed by us two critical Liches? How you doing, Pete? You ready?
I'm ready, yes.
Pete, who's our guest this evening?
We have Crowley, aka Farful13 in chat, joining us tonight. How you doing, Crowley?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited for the Travel Cleric. We've kind of we saw the Travel Cleric a really, really long time ago on D&D Time Brews, I think multiple years almost
past.
Now. Yeah. And I thought it was cool then. It needed a little work, but so I'm really excited to see now that it's had so much time to stew where it has ended up.
The psych is what Crowley's done. He's changed nothing. He's just changed the formatting, and at the end, he's going to show us back to back, side by side, our criticisms then and now, and then we're going to look dumb.
Oh man, I should have thought that far
ahead. If only. So. We talked a little bit about the rubric before. Do you want to go over it again here? I know you do these on YouTube in a specific way, Jeremy.
Sure. Because this is a new segment on the YouTubes or Twitch for anyone watching. This basically we evaluate everything against a 5-point rubric. The rubric is pass or fail. You either get the point for the subject or you don't. First category is space. Is there room for this in 5th edition? And does it overlap substantially, whether in mechanically or in flavor, a existing thing? In the case of this thing we're looking at today, which is a subclass for the cleric, does it substantially overlap other cleric subclasses or other classes that have the same kind of feel? Balance, is it technically balanced both in the context of comparable content and in the context of the game as a whole? That's a pretty straightforward one. Is it overpowered or underpowered, or pretty good? Playability is really important. I'd argue maybe the most important thing on here, or the second most important, which is, does the content disrupt the flow of gameplay? Is there anything that would be frustrating to play with, or as a dungeon master to adjudicate running? Is there anything that would frustrate or slow down gameplay? Design, is the design of the content elegant? Is it super easy to follow? And does it follow the conventions established by other similar content in the game? And if it doesn't, is there a good reason for it? And flavor, does the content really inspire you? Is it something that you see and you say, you know what, that sounds pretty cool. I could use that for something in my game, whether it's I might want to play this subclass someday, or I might want to make a character in my game, an NPC that's inspired by this subclass, or something along those lines.
And that's the light in which we're going to be looking at the Travel Cleric right now. So, Crowley, before we go into it, do you have anything you want to tell us a bit about the Travel Cleric?
He likes to travel.
He's born a rambling man.
There's some focus on a particular weapon.
Oh.
And I don't know. What are you looking for here?
No, you didn't have anything in mind. I just didn't know if you had any
what inspires you, right?
Yeah, opening statements.
Is there anything in social media, or not social media, in popular media that this is akin to, that inspires you? Maybe something from a book or something. Is there anything in particular that you drew from when creating it?
That's weird that I'm thinking about it now, because not really. I can see certain ideas where maybe I got it, but I didn't think about that stuff for the most part when I was making it. Like, there's some elements of like Avatar almost in it, in like sort of aesthetic, I think, where you know the what is it, the Avatar? What do they call it? Team Avatar, you know, travels around, and like Aang always has his staff, and he's always helping people as he goes along, and you know, and that's sort of like the idea behind the travel cleric is traveling around with your walking stick and helping people.
Cool. The other half of the question, when I meant was also, is there anything like you want to tell us about it that, like, to not like color or opinion necessarily, but things to like keep it. Like, I know sometimes, for example, a great example is Jeremy's Genie, where you kind of want to know when you're looking at the spells, like, well, the spells need to be evaluated in the context of the first level feature. So is there anything like that we should keep in mind as we kind of go through and read this?
I don't think so. Magic weapon needs to be in that vein. But other than that, I don't think so.
Okay. Cool.
I have highlighted something that I'm still unsure about keeping within this document, and you will see it, and you can make your judgment on that when you get there.
That is also good to know. Would you like to read it, or would you like us to read it?
Don't you guys usually read it?
We always ask.
Has always asked us to read it, but we do ask. Yeah.
You always. I mean, what do you want?
You to be happy, Crowley. I want you to be happy.
That's impossible. So what do you want to read it, or do you want me to read it?
I think we should read it. Yeah, we'll read it for you. Okay. And I think that because I feel like if the person's reading it, right, there's a chance they enunciate certain things in certain ways that might add added clarity. That anyway. I'm going to read it.
You're trying to avoid. You don't want the clarity. You want to be lost in the dark.
We want our immediate thoughts reading. Right. Anyway, I'm going to start it off.
No, I understand that. I'm just putting it in the worst light possible.
I appreciate that.
Take it, Jeremy.
Divine Domain. Clerics in Dungeons & Dragons gain its subclass at first level, choosing one domain related to their deity from the list of available domains. Each domain is detailed in their own feature, and each one provides examples of gods associated with it. And of course, the feature grants you domain spells and other features when you choose it at first level. It also grants you additional ways to use your channel divinity when you gain that feature at second level, and additional benefits at 6th, 8th, and 17th levels. So right off the bat, I mean, that's just straightforward. That's in every cleric. But
yeah, it's just...
Yeah, I don't think I wrote that.
A lot of features we're going to see on this, as opposed to, right, maybe smaller subclasses where they get 2 or 3 features. There are at least 4 or 5 different subclass features here to look at. All right, travel. People travel for many reasons. They travel to buy and sell, to adventure, to carry messages, to see new places, to run and to hide, to escape. Some just travel for its own sake. Gods of the travel domain, such as Apollo, Artemis, Diana, Farful13. Hecate. Is Hecate a second god?
Yeah, that's a second.
I was going to say, I didn't know Farful13 had a second
that's
name.
missing a comma. Oh, live editing.
Hermes, Miele, and Selene watch over all types of journeys, whether it be along the road, through a primeval forest, on the ocean, or in caves deep within the earth. Clerics of the travel domain tend to be wanderers and missionaries with walking stick in hand. They travel often, only stopping to help others. They seek odd jobs in towns and villages they pass through before quickly moving on to the next. They make fast friends along the roads, always offering a place by their fire, a warm meal, or directions to any who they might cross paths. Clerics of the travel domain may wander, but they know their purpose, and they know where their journey leads, for they know that not all who wander are lost. At each indicated cleric level, add the listed spells to your spells prepared list. They do not count towards your limit of spells prepared. All right, and then we're looking at travel domain spells. You have given them 2 spells at each level, which is by convention. And looking at it, we've got Comprehend Language and Purify Food and Drink at first level, Magic Weapon and Knock at 3rd level, Tiny Hut and Water Breathing at 5th level, Freedom of Movement and Faithful Hound at 7th level, and Commune with Nature and Pass Wall at 9th level.
So cool. Before we get too much further, I know we usually go through, but I just wanted to go through a couple initial thoughts here. I like it quite a bit. I like the use of the phrase, not all who wander are lost. It's a classic one, and it feels it very much sets kind of almost a nostalgic tone for the travel cleric, which is kind of what I think about it. So I thought that was a cool choice. I like the vibe. These spells, all of them very much seem intended around getting you to different places or chilling out, with the exception of Magic Weapon, which you mentioned might have context further on. Yeah, I don't know. I like what we're seeing so far. All the spells definitely checked out to me.
Working backwards, I really, in particular, love the inclusion of Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound. That just feels really right for a traveler. That's a very, very, very underutilized spell, and I always like when a class provides you with just a free opportunity to use an underutilized or a niche spell, because very few wizards will prepare or will learn Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound because of its very niche usability and its high level. And I really like that you've included it here as a way of, hey, once you reach 7th level, you always have this as an option. Got a 4th level spell slot ready at the end of your when you're about to take a long rest. Why not get your Faithful Hound, right? It's just very cool. I will say, V-Money had some comments in chat talking about, you tell me what kind of character I have to be, and I hate that. Well, very strong words, V-Money. I mean, if you can say it a little less aggressively, that's fair. But I think the point actually is very valid. There's a lot of they are this.
Yes, yeah.
In the text, and
it's very nudging you towards that kind of good, friendly, just friendly stranger meet on the road archetype, which I think is what, to be fair, most people who play this are likely to want that vibe, because that's kind of like the thing that I feel like the travel is. But again, not everyone.
Yeah, and along those same lines, right? I think you could say many or most, but I think it would also be relevant to give a nod somewhere in this opening text to some travel for more cynical or what's the term?
Purposeful. You could also say.
Not just purposeful, but where it's all about you. What's the word? Oh my goodness. Selfish. Thank you. For more cynical or selfish reasons, such as, the pursuit of lost knowledge or something like that, just to give a little bit of extra leeway to that. I think just a sentence giving that a nod and a little bit more ambiguous language would be good to include. But overall, it's very good. I very much like the tone that you're setting and the theme that you're setting for this. In terms of you've absolutely given us the idea of the kind of character you anticipate this to be. So I like that.
You've hit the thing that I would want to play if I was playing this. It appeals very directly to me personally.
Right.
Very appealing to me as well.
Let's keep going. I'm going to read Well Traveled here. So at 1st level, you are a skilled and experienced traveler. You gain the following benefits. You gain proficiency in navigator's tools, land and water vehicles, and cobbler's tools. I remember that from the original version now, and I do love that. And you have advantage on any saving throws to resist the effects of severe weather conditions such as extreme heat and extreme cold. That is all pretty innocuous and all very flavorful.
I totally agree. One thing I would probably mention on it is, and it's not like a commentary on power or anything, it's just mentioning what Cobbler's Tools does. Because as of Xanathar's Guide to Everything, all of the tool proficiencies did gain some additional uses. And so this Cobbler tool proficiency actually has a mechanical implication.
Do you know it?
Yes, I do.
Jeremy, you know Cobbler's Tools? I'm very impressed with you right now.
A friend of mine is very into Cobbler's Tools.
Oh, okay, fair.
And this mechanical implication, although it is rarely used, basically, over a long rest, you can repair your companion's shoes and things like that, allowing players to travel 10 hours per day instead of the normal 8, with overland travel without having to deal with forced march and the like.
Yeah.
It's fun, actually. I really like that feature, actually.
That's cool. I guess like I guess that does add a small smidgen of unseen power if the person takes advantage of it.
Well, and also you can also craft hidden compartments in shoes, so you can make shoe knives and things.
Well, that's
like
just
a
rad.
feature on it. Yeah, it's actually quite nice.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
You weren't saying to include that information here because I don't think that would work.
No, you don't have to. It's
Okay,
just an aspect of. I was just mentioning that is a feature kind of idea that you get from the cobbler's tools, assuming your dungeon master is using those rules.
And that makes so much sense too. Like travelers putting money in their shoes for when they get, like a lot of that also fits in the flavor. Yeah, in case they get robbed.
I love that.
But let's read Blessing of the Trail too, because this is also a first level feature, correct?
Yes.
All right. Every traveler needs a good walking stick, and you are particularly adept at making good use of yours. You gain the following benefits while wielding a quarterstaff. You may use a quarterstaff as a spellcasting focus instead of a holy symbol for your cleric spells. You can perform the somatic components of your cleric spells even when you wield a quarterstaff in both hands. Cool with that so far. Oh, interesting. You gain a +2 bonus to AC while wielding a quarterstaff in 2 hands. When wielded in this way, the quarterstaff counts as a shield, and any magical bonuses to attack rolls granted by the quarterstaff are also added to your AC. Let me just reread that so I fully understand it. When wielded in this way, it counts as a shield. Okay, cool. Next, you can use your quarterstaff to improve your balance and stabilize yourself. You have advantage on any ability checks made to maintain your balance. And last but not least, this is the one that you said you were a little bit skeptical on.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe last and least, when you take the attack action with a quarterstaff while wielding it in both hands and miss, you can make a second attack as part of the same action. If this attack hits, you do not apply your ability modifier to the damage. All right. There's a lot. It's a very complicated feature. There's a lot going on here. Do you want to break this one down, Jeremy?
Yes, because I have a little bit of inside baseball here about this feature. This is something that we worked through a long time ago, and we looked at it. And the one I want to start with here, because obviously you can use your quarterstaff as a spellcasting focus, even when you wield it in both hands. Yeah. Non-controversial, straightforward. You got your cool staff. The big one is this weird +2 AC bonus. And the reason it's written the way it is specifically for how the feature how this class engages in multi-classing. Yeah, because that way the it counts as a shield aspect is important for certain mechanics. For like I think it's what is it? It's not the barbarian or the monk. It's something similar. I don't remember which one off the bat. It might be the monk's unarmed defense, because the monk would be the obvious, the obvious quarterstaff wielding class. So because the quarterstaff counts as a shield, you benefit from this feature cross-classing.
The monk can't benefit from it, and you can't also then wear a shield and do it. So
yeah, and I think the barbarian's the same way.
The barbarian might be able to, but at that point you're going.
Yeah, barbarian can still use a shield, but the monk can't with his armor defense.
The other thing on it, the magical bonus that you get to a quarterstaff, if you're wielding a +3 quarterstaff, it also counts as basically a +3 shield.
Yep.
That is interesting.
It's not like so, and I've thought about that too, like how strong that seemingly is, and it is strong. I won't deny that. This is designed with the idea that you're not taking the heavy armor feat, so you're in medium armor. So the most you can get without magical armor is 22 AC, not including spells and stuff. If you got a +3 quarterstaff.
Yeah, it was noticeable. I mean, this is in place of other. I mean, there's a lot of other clerics that, for example, get heavy armor proficiency, which is a better armor proficiency for sure. Do clerics innately get shields?
I think so.
Yeah.
Is it all clerics or some clerics? Okay.
They all do. I really actually like how this feature interacts with, and I know you were going to mention it, Crowley, you mentioned earlier, the magic weapon spell that you get at 2nd level. Because not only do you get a +2 to hit, then you also get a +2 to your armor class while you have your magic weapon.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty potent combo. I mean, once you have 5th level spells, that is a +3 to hit, +3 to damage, +3 to armor class from that one concentration.
No, I think magic weapon is one of the ones that skips every level.
Oh, is it?
Like spiritual weapon, yeah.
Never mind then. Okay.
So it's like
That's-
eighth level spells.
Still,
Still strong,
right.
but way later.
Yeah, you're right. It is every other level. So yeah, all right, that's a lot more reasonable. I think a +1 from magic weapon at 2nd level or a +2 at 4th level is pretty reasonable. If you're casting it at 6th level, I feel like the power level
is magic weapon a non-concentration spell?
It is a concentration.
Is a concentration spell? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
My intent also with this was if you were to take a feat, I would hope you to take the Shieldmaster feat because I like the idea of them spinning the quarterstaff to block like a fire breath or something like that.
That's very cool.
That is very cool.
One of the things... Sorry, Pete.
I was going to move on so you can...
I was going to say, so let's just talk really briefly about this feature here. The attack while wielding it and you miss, you make a second attack. Actually, I guess we'll come back to that because that's a balance question to determine at the end.
Yeah.
You want to take Traveler's Communion, Peter, or do you want me to take them?
I'd love to. Starting at 2nd level, you can use your channel divinity to guide you in your travels. Rather than present your holy symbol, you lie down and put your ear to the ground for 1 minute. You and a number of your traveling companions up to your wisdom modifier, minimum of 1, gain temporary hit points equal to half your cleric level plus your wisdom modifier, and have advantage on any saving throws made to avoid gaining a level of exhaustion for the next 8 hours. You also gain one of the following benefits based on where you are traveling. Oh, interesting. Okay. Traveling on a road. You learn the following information about the nearest safe settlement or place of respite, such as a tavern or inn, along the road and in the direction you are traveling. The name of the settlement or place of respite, the distance of the settlement or place of respite, the direction to the settlement or place of respite. Additionally, you have advantage on all charisma checks made against any humanoid creatures you encounter, and you can't be surprised by humanoids while traveling for the next 8 hours.
Satyrs gonna get you.
Satyrs are gonna get me.
Satyrs always gonna get you. Do you want to do traveling in the wilderness, Jeremy?
Yeah. While traveling in the wilderness, you learn the following information: the direction of and distance to the nearest source of potable water, the direction and the distance to the nearest location of food that is safe to eat, including edible living beasts of a challenge rating 1/4 or lower, the location of and nearest form of shelter within 5 miles of your current location, and if there is a road, settlement, or place of respite within 5 miles of your current location. Additionally, you have advantage on any wisdom, animal handling, checks you make to interact with beasts you encounter, and you cannot be surprised by creatures native to this area while traveling for the next 8 hours. All right. Okay. This is a very, very robust feature.
Yeah, this is a dense one.
One of the things I just want to mention right off the bat before we dive into what it actually does, this seems to be an almost, unless you're in a city, always applicable channel divinity, which isn't always the case for the other channel divinities.
And I bet you a lot of DMs, even if you were in a city, if you were on a road on the streets, would probably...
Let's see. I guess Grave Cleric always has a usable channel divinity.
Don't use it at Crossroads, though.
What does Forge get? Artisan's Blessing. Yeah, they're pretty much always usable. Actually, it looks like many of these ones actually are pretty reliably usable.
And the ones that aren't always reliably usable are like
very good.
Like the Tempests.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty reliably usable. If you're
it's just dealing damage. Same thing with Preserve Life, you know.
Super strong.
All right, so I guess actually that isn't a balance factor to consider. I just wanted to just double check really quickly because I know like Turn Undead being the core channel divinity is super situational.
There's just so much going on this. I guess like the thing is I really like this. Like I would want to use this and I would have a lot of fun with it. My initial kind of like reticence that I'm kind of feeling is I think just entirely due to how many small, complicated things that there are. For example, like you have the charisma checks, and then there's the temporary hit points, and then there's these other like info that the DM has to give you, and then there's exhaustion, which is like a really niche thing, which makes sense. Like it all fits and makes sense. There's just so much going on. And I don't know if I feel that it's too much, because like I said, I do like it, and I would want to use this.
Yeah, I think the problem we're running into here is it's trying to do two different things. There's a mechanical implication to it, and there is an exploration implication to it. And the mechanical implication, obviously, is you can't be surprised, and you gain these temp HP.
Yeah.
The exploration implication is get all this information. And I can see where that could, it's just maybe a lot on one thing. I'm wondering if there's a way this could be narrowed down more. Also, very minor. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
Very minor note I want to mention. The advantage on saving throws against gaining a level of exhaustion, that's interesting because and exhaustion for any reason, and even that it's only 8 hours, but you can travel for 10 hours with your cobbler's tools. Just a minor goof there. I think maybe that exhaustion should probably be against forced travel, but even then, because the cobbler's tools, is it necessary? And I guess that's the question, right? Is it necessary for it to have this big mechanical implementation and implications in addition to these exploration-based ones? Because that's what it's all about, is the exploration.
Yeah. And for me also, the thing about the mechanics of it, like, it actually doesn't make a lot of sense to me that this grants temporary hit points. Like, I don't fully understand, because I'm picturing them, like,
if I
down,
may,
listening to the road. Yeah, please do.
I start off with that. That was bringing back past criticism. That was a suggestion you guys made last time.
Which was that it had no mechanical implications.
Mm-hmm. So add in the temp hit points. I think was specifically the suggestion. I believe it might have been more Jeremy's, but
well, I think that the real point here is does a lot.
Yeah.
Right. It's got this exhaustion bit. It's got a bunch of different implications based on the different areas. It just might just be too much.
The surprise thing might be enough of a mechanical implication, because that does make sense in the context of what this does.
Yeah, I mean, I would think, and now that I'm like looking at it again, I think I would remove. Would I don't know. The information thing has always sounded a little weird with me, but
yeah, I guess like the.
Go ahead.
The question I have, right, is obviously it's a religious revelation. You don't have to rationalize in the context, right, of the narrative how you learn the name of the settlement. Maybe your dungeon master is really creative and says, yes, you find as you are lying upon the ground, a paper, flows by, blows by in the breeze, and you grab it and it has the name of an inn, right? Maybe it's a receipt for a meal or something, right? Or a flyer advertising a bard at this local tavern. And that's how you find out the name of the settlement or tavern, right? But, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that could be a point of contention or confusion. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but in terms of our rubric, the design there's just a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one other note, actually, I know I mentioned that thing about surprised, but having one that so reliably kind of quashes surprise, and I know it's just specifically humanoids, but I mean, those are the creatures that you would generally most likely encounter on a road.
Yeah, this is designed expressly with bandits in mind.
It does have the potential to quash, thwart DM plans in a an everyday kind of reliable way. Like, that just completely takes a thing out of the game. I don't know if this might be a niche enough thing that it's okay that you just completely beat this, but it's just something to food for thought, as we're going forward.
I kind of like it personally.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way as well.
Actually, I rather like it personally, and though it is a lot, I feel like in the context of what this does, right? And it's the idea that you are through this religious revelation gaining this information, right? That works for me, right? For like a god of travel and of journeys.
The whole thing, the flavor on this, the whole thing is oozing with flavor. There's no question there. That all checks for me, except for the temporary hit point thing for me. But let's just keep moving.
Yeah. Starting at, repeat this view, please.
Oh, it's, yes. Starting at 6th level, you gain the ability to move creatures out of harm's way while tending their wounds. When you restore hit points to a creature with a spell of 1st level or higher, that creature may use its reaction immediately after the spell to move up to its speed. If a target is prone, it can use half of its movement to stand. This movement does not provoke opportunity attacks and ignores difficult terrain. Very, very cool. I like this a lot. I like specifically, I was not sold until I read the prone thing, and like the ability to make your healing word also get an ally up from prone is, I think, a really cool utility that adds some interesting tactics in combat.
I couldn't agree more. Especially features like mass healing word that are overwhelmingly I mean, like, it's a good spell, don't get me wrong, but compared to like a mass cure wounds of comparable level, it's like, why would I do one versus the other? Obviously one's a bonus action, but when you're targeting a lot of people at a high level spell slot, you want the most healing you can get. I like that this says, well, as a bonus action, you get all this other stuff too, right? You can get them to stand up and they can move, and I don't know. I like this a lot.
Also well named. I have nothing else to say about that one right now. I think that feature's in a great spot.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just thinking Sanctuary is another cool implication on this, right? Like, I don't see this so, like, I see this as like, there's, you know, a rock slide, right? It's like, oh, get out of the way, right? Cast
yeah, that's cool too. Like,
cast a spell and
it's a really fun tool that has a lot of potential, and I think anyone who gets this is going to have fun exploring that. I think it's a great feature.
Are there any of the features on your spell list, by the way, just as a question, that interact with that? Do we know?
I don't think so. I don't think anything directly interacts with it.
Freedom of movement does, for sure.
Oh, no, it has to be a healing
spell. It has to be a healing spell.
Oh, it has to be a healing spell. Okay. Maybe that's something that would be changed if it weren't just a healing feature. If it were any kind of feature that, you know, affects a creature, you can do this. I'm not sure that would be a problem necessarily. Because right now, so far, we don't have any real power on this class besides the quarterstaff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That might be a place to give it more oomph.
The phrase you'd have to do would be, it'd just be a little funky with targeting, like, for example, an AoE thing. But I guess you just say whenever you target a creature with a spell, you may choose to allow them to use your reaction, I guess would be how you'd phrase that. But again, that's neither here nor there. I think that could potentially open up some avenues with it, but I also like it in its, like, I'm still cool with it in its current state. It has a lot of blend with the name as well in its current state of, like, someone is hurt and you're telling them to just keep moving, like, makes a lot of sense to me. Anything else on that one, Jeremy?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Divine Strike, 8th. That's classic. All clerics get it. You gain the ability to infuse your weapon strikes with divine energy. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with weapon attack, you can make it do an extra 1d8 damage. It increases to 2d8 at 14th level. All clerics get either Divine Strike or, why can't I remember the name of the other one? The one that makes your cantrips do wisdom modifier damage. Divine Strike makes sense because you've built heavily around the quarterstaff, so of course. And then Know the Path. Jeremy, do you want to read the capstone here?
Of course. This is a really funky one. At 17th level, you can find the path to any location. By spending 1 minute meditation, thinking about where you want to go, you learn the shortest, most direct physical route to the destination, so long as it is on the same plane of existence. The destination can be something specific, such as a specific town or item, or something more ambiguous, such as the nearest portal to another plane of existence. As long as you remain on the same plane of existence as the destination, you know how far it is and in what direction it lies. If the destination can move, you always know which direction it is moving. While you are traveling to destination, whenever you are presented with a choice of paths along the way, you automatically, I don't like the word automatically, determine which path is the shortest and most direct route, but not necessarily the safest route to the destination. This effect lasts for 1 day or until you use this feature again to determine the path to a different location.
So to start with, I have a question for you, Crowley.
Yeah.
Where does this differ from the spell Find the Path?
You have to to have been to the location and find the path. And there are, I don't remember all. There's concentration, but there's also small differences that I don't remember off the top of my head. Like a lot of wording changes.
Do you think there's a way that you could phrase this to use the spell of Find the Path, or does Find the Path have things in it that are just too many issues?
There are things that would cause some issues, but also the suggestion I got last time was to not use Find the Path.
Yeah, well, and Find the Path, there'd be so many exceptions. Like, Find the Path has to be a fixed location. It has to be someplace you're familiar with. I mean, this is like a Jack Sparrow compass. Know the path.
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking. I didn't know, like, I'm not familiar. I could tell that it was very Find the Path. I can't remember the original version of this, because it's very clearly pulling some of the language and stuff from Find the Path as well. But I was curious how many differences there are and whether or not it's worth denoting it like this, which it sounds like it is.
So there's two questions. A question about know the path. Can a destination be a person or a creature? Did I
use the word
did not specify?
I said it could be where an object is or something, such as a specific town or item. I'm gonna say maybe. DM discretion.
Ooh, uh-oh. That's uh-oh.
Is it?
I think so. I think there should be less ambiguity in a subclass.
Well,
in homebrew, right?
Based on this, I would say no. If your DM says yes, that's on them. And as far as Farky saying, aren't you just replacing Find the Path, though? Yes, I am. But it's for a cleric feature, and clerics don't get that spell normally. Yeah, but yes, it is a better than.
They do get the spell, actually.
Do they? Okay, well,
yeah, I think that was added in a something else though.
There haven't been any added.
Errata. It was in errata they added.
Okay.
Stuff.
Yeah, better. I mean, this is definitely a better version of Find the Path. All right. Yeah. I like it. I mean, it's an interesting feature. Like.
One of the interesting things, there's a lot of discussion going on in chat, which I love to see. V-Bunny was saying there's a lot of power that seems too strong compared to other cleric subclasses. Oh, I'm not sure I agree with that.
Yeah, I was thinking it was on the weaker side, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the 6th level feature is powerful, and that's it. That's like the only power I see in this. I was honestly feeling like this might be a little too weak.
From an exploration standpoint, obviously this would be the most powerful. If we're looking at that particular pillar of gameplay, this is extraordinarily powerful in that particular aspect.
And circling back around to this highlighted feature, I think you need that for in the later game, where like, and maybe that gets tacked on to, oh god, I don't even know where you would put that on as a feature, but
just leave it where it is.
Yeah, I guess I don't think you could put it at a higher level. But yeah, I think that's necessary, because as a cleric, you're only ever getting one attack.
Yeah, and then spiritual weapon is your second.
So
attack.
yeah, like you need that reliability in there, I think. Some more great comments in chat. Frosty Pirate, I would never allow this class in a game. I'm all about reducing my workload and increasing immersion. This class seems to increase my workload pre-game and post-game, trying to catch up with whatever BS I had to improv. That's a fair point.
Very fair point. Yeah.
There's, and I think that's part of the implication is specifically this channel divinity feature. I don't think there'd be any issue with keep moving divine strike or know the path necessarily. Obviously, know the path has that same problem, but it's 17th level, right? Like at 17th level, you're at 17th level, right?
Yeah.
You can have that kind of thing there. You're Jack Sparrow. I go wherever I want. Compass is fine.
It doesn't really make many issues that the spell Find the Path doesn't already make, at least.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So I mean.
Oh, but Frosty Pirate also saying I might use it as an NPC to guide the party, though. So at least in that regard, there's stuff here that is is definitely, it hits that flavor point, and it's getting that inspiration. And I would agree, right? I mean, you're on the same page with me, Pete. 100% the flavor points here. There's nothing in 5e that really fits this.
And I think we can throw the space point in there too. While we're talking about nothing in 5e, fits that undeniable on both.
So you got 2 out of 5 right off the bat. Well, I guess not right off the bat, but currently.
Let's get into.
Want to talk balance?
Yeah, balance is, I think, the next one to talk about.
Because it's, I think, the next easiest.
And my instinct is, I think that this is balanced. With the temporary hit points, even, like...
My feel, right, is with this quarterstaff attack at 2nd level, right? Your second, or this is at 1st level you get that, but you know, when you get to 2nd level and you get magic weapon at 2nd level, this is really strong. This is insanely powerful at 2nd level. That's why I was saying, is there somewhere else you could put that?
Wait, why is that insanely strong at 2nd level?
Well, you've got basically a +1 shield, +1 weapon. You know, you got your +1 everything, extra temp hit points.
Well, 3rd level. It's 3rd level. 2nd level spells.
Oh yeah, so at 3rd level. I don't know. It's just, you're very reliable to hit, more so than any other class in the game. You got a good amount of armor class. You've got the extra temp hit points. I guess it's not necessarily too busted, but it's something to consider.
Wait, are you talking about the channel divinity, or are you talking about the quarterstaff attack?
I'm talking about just everything up through at 3rd level, right? As a whole, it's strong at 3rd level. I don't think it's necessarily overpowered, but it's definitely strong.
I want to point out something that some people are actually talking about the space point, I think, a little bit, without, not directly, but saying that this steps on the toes of Ranger by kind of outdoing Ranger at exploring. I don't know if you want to, like, the Ranger has...
I got some feels about that, personally.
Yeah, the Ranger has so many fundamental issues in the way that some of those early game features are designed. I don't think... None
of the Ranger features are about exploring, though. They're all about mechanical benefits you get in specific areas. None of them are about exploring. And, like, I hate to say that, but it's true. Like, Ranger can track monsters. That's something that they can do. That is kind of exploration. That's it.
Yeah, after saying Ranger in 5e is not a good standard to compare to, I tend to agree. You can find food D&D time. I think, yeah, that's one point that are a crossover here. But certainly one point does not an overlap make.
But that's still not about exploring. That's a mechanical aspect. This gives you information about areas, which is the key context of where this becomes different, right? And it gives you, I mean, I guess you could say, right, that counts, finding food counts as survival and exploring, but...
Anyway, I don't see that as an issue because of, like, I don't know, I just think if you want to tie this down to Ranger, it would imply that the travel domain is just invalid as an idea, which I don't think it is. I think travel domain is something really interesting that a lot of people would be into.
I think what we can say, and I think this is what chat's really coming down to, what the Ranger should have had at 1st level, this is stepping on the toes of. What the Ranger actually has at 1st level, we're fine. I don't think there's any space issue here.
I don't even know if it's stepping on the toes.
Well, I mean,
I guess
we wish the Ranger did.
The channel divinity might, but I don't think anything.
The early game, no, absolutely not.
No, it doesn't make the Ranger an invalid thing.
Yeah, not even close, my dude.
And the ignores difficult terrain actually it would apply to the cleric, but only in battle.
Anyway, I definitely think this gets a space point, just to reaffirm that, because I saw that was an issue by my assessment, which I think you're in agreement, Jeremy.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think this invalidates the Ranger. I don't think there's any issue with space. And even if they did have similar concepts, the overall implementation is very different and very focused on moving and using that staff. Those are the two, kind of like how the new Genie Warlock is all about its lamp, this subclass is all about the staff and moving around, right? Just keep moving, affect your movement, know the path, right? How to find go to places, where you're going and the directions to go. Like, the ranger is much more about just what is the area and what are the monsters. So I don't think this is about quite in the same.
Let's bring it back around to balance. The first level feature, you think you're worried about some of the early game balance with magic weapon is, I think, one of the key things.
No, I'm not. And that's where I actually I just wanted to bring up that I think this is very strong at third level. I don't think this is actually a balance issue at third level. I don't think it's too strong. I just think it is quite strong.
I agree. I'm with you on that.
Even with this, highlighted feature saying, which I think it needs personally.
Yeah, seeing it in the context of the rest of the class, I also think it needs that.
Yeah, especially if we take some of the, even if it's just the exhaustion off of the channel divinity. Because the real problem I have actually right now is a design thing. Agreed. Or maybe it's a playability thing. I'm not entirely sure. The design for the channel divinity, there's just a lot. But the playability aspect is, I could see this being frustrating for the cleric. Feeling like, well, I always get this 10 hit points. I always have to use it for this. Mm-hmm. Right? It's always good to do. It's never bad. If it keeps you from getting surprised once, awesome. But the 10 hit points are just always so good that when the undead show up and you can't turn undead, you're going to feel like shit. It's like, well, crap, we were walking toward town. Oh, town was only a mile away. Oh, a haunted house. Oh, shit, we're possessed by ghosts and I don't have a channel divinity now. I could see that being a very frustrating thing. But I don't know if there's a better implication necessarily, like a better reason. You know what I mean? Because given your only other option is turn undead, given the mechanical reliability of temporary hit points, and of course I might have suggested that even last time, but that's just something I'm thinking of now. What do you think, Pete?
I think I'll come back to it. I have a point I want to make about the quarterstaff. I don't think it needs this, and I'm with you. I think it's probably leans towards design or playability. Playability on this also, something that Frosty Pirate was pointing out, which is it's a lot for a GM to have to handle, which I can definitely see that. And that's kind of what I was alluding to before. It's like, I like all of this and I would want to use this as a player, but it's a lot to parse on the GM load side of things. To point out with the quarterstaff thing, I would like to add on to that, when you take an attack action with a quarterstaff on your turn, I feel like this isn't something that should be on your turn.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Well, no, it's when you take the attack action. It doesn't matter if it's on your turn, because you can only take the attack action on your turn.
V-Bunny, it doesn't get infinite attack.
When you take the attack action.
Reading it wrong.
Okay. No.
Yeah.
Not when you make an attack. It's when you take the attack action. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, V-Bunny, in your implication, that would be a third attack at that point, not a second attack, which is what this feature allows. Yeah, I mean, to kind of think about Frosty Pirate's original concerns, I think those are very legitimate concerns. I think some of the things that maybe could be drawn back, honestly, it's the name of the settlement or place of respite. I think it's like the distance and direction. I don't think that's really a huge deal, guesstimating distance or direction. I think, a dungeon master, if they really don't want to track that kind of stuff super heavily, it's about a day's travel, right? Not that hard.
That is not how the game works, V-Bunny, but...
Yeah, but... we're past that.
The name is definitely a problematic one.
Yeah, I think name is a big one for a lot of DMs to think on their feet. I mean, a lot of DMs is like, all right, hello NPC, what's your name? I know I've done that more than once. But yeah, using the word approximate would be a really good suggestion from Frosty. the approximate distance and direction. And I think that would solve a lot of those issues with the
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and that way, and even then, right, you could take it down to 2 bullet points, right? And it'd just be, you learn the distance and direction to the nearest settlement or the approximate distance and direction to the nearest settlement or place of respite. That's 1 bullet point. And then second bullet point is you gain advantage on charisma checks against any humanoids, and you can't be surprised by humanoids while traveling for the next 8 hours.
Yeah, that might be the way to do it.
And if it's 2 bullet points per thing, I think that'll be a lot. It'll just feel a lot more concise. And even though it's really the same exact thing, there's no difference here, I think, in terms of how I would run the ability in my game.
Also, for the record, it does not completely eliminate surprise.
Against a particular type of creature, yes.
But it's only you.
Oh, and
your allies don't get it. Yeah.
Oh.
Your allies don't get that.
Oh, okay.
I
cool.
see why you would read it that way, and I'm gonna see what I can do to reword that. But
I don't think there's a need to reword it. You don't. You're not surprised. Like, surprise is something that if you use surprise as it's written in the book, there's no issue here. Like, you are not subject to surprise condition when you are attacked by humanoids.
Yeah, I'd read I read the flavor into it of, like, the reason you're not surprised is because you know there's bandits. So in my brain, it was like kind of like almost like, oh, there's bandits on the road. I can't be like it. But you don't actually get that information. So
no, you just aren't surprised when they show up.
It's interesting. There's a little bit of a disconnect with the flavor there, but
yeah, I know that. See, that's an issue with surprise all around.
Like
I think that the Artificer's Steel Defender demonstrates, it can't be surprised, but the Artificer can.
I don't know if I dislike the mechanic, but I think it's definitely like a little, just a tiny bit weird in that regard. But to wrap on Traveler's Communion. Jeremy, final thoughts here?
I personally really like this. I
like Parker's explanation. You're so used to bandits, they're not surprised.
Yeah, right. I think, and I'm not sure if it's necessary, because here's the thing, right? The immediate thought is in traveling in the wilderness, right? You have miles for limiters, and I think that's really reasonable. And it's almost like, oh, I want to do that on traveling on the road. But I love the idea of, like, you do it. It's like, yeah, the nearest settlement's like 400 miles. Just, oh no, we're lost in the woods, boys. Right? Like, I like that. That's a really cool moment, I feel.
But I think you could get that.
I think the exhaustion can go, though. I think you can keep the 10 hit points. But I think the exhaustion might be.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the exhaustion.
I'm still I'm with you on the exhaustion. I'm still of the opinion that the temp hit points don't fully add up for me, but
yeah, they don't. But like, I think it was right. It does need a mechanical implication, right?
Maybe buff the surprise.
Or do you think it doesn't?
You could buff the surprise and just not make it surprised by humanoids. Even surprised by humanoids is cool, and that would be a pretty significant mechanical implication. That's a thought. But I think we've let's again. This is the most complicated feature, so we spent a lot of time on it. But let's just keep moving. The balance point. To circle back around to the balance point.
Oh, I think it's balanced.
I still think that this is balanced.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The design playability aspects. It's interesting because there's so many places where I really love the design. I think the design in Just Keep Moving is particularly inspired.
I would argue the design is solid throughout. It's the playability that we have some issues with. Frustrations with specific names of places and exact distances and directions. Right?
Maybe.
I mean,
which I'm going to change.
It's a bit clunky with all of the different stuff in Traveler's Communion. There's a lot there.
Yeah, I think Traveler's Communion definitely gets the design flag for me. But I would also say it's the only spot maybe that gets a design flag from me. No, the path is on the precipice of that.
I actually think Know the Path is very well. When Pete, trust me on this one. When you look at Find the Path compared to Know the Path, the amount of exceptions you would have to have in Find the Path to make it do what this feature does, it just not worth it. It'd be way longer just writing. It's Find the Path, except for
my issue wasn't the. That's why I asked that question. No, my issue wasn't with the Find the Path thing. It was with the ambiguities in. It was with the ambiguities in location. Like, for example, it specifies at the beginning that's a location and says later on it can be an item, which I guess would be the location around the item. I don't know, like, it might be a minor quibble, but also that might not be a minor quibble.
I think it does need more specificity, I'll give you that. But I'm not sure that's still a design thing necessarily. I think that's a playability concern of interpretation.
I don't see that as a playability issue, because I don't think it, like, working correctly, there isn't a problem playability-wise. You could talk about Know the Path from the playability standpoint, where some people might think it's too good to know this information all the time, but I don't think anyone would have a problem other than just misinterpreting the design, which I think is a fault of design, not playability, personally. So I think that's not as big of an issue as the other one. I don't know. I'm on the fence. What do you think?
I would give it the point, but I understand where you're not. And then, yeah, playability. I think it needs the Traveler's Communion cleaned up, but otherwise, I don't know. I think that's it. I would say, actually, if anybody has made a point about in chat, if you cross-classed in Fighter, how this could how this feature, when you take the attack action with a quarterstaff, in both hands, you make a second attack if you miss. I think that could actually be interpreted to apply with multi-attack. That actually does seem like I could see that ambiguity in there. So maybe that would need you can use feature only once per round, just to clarify, because I could see that ambiguity. Because the term is additional. I'm sorry, is second attack that you use here as the clarifying term instead of additional attack. Another way you could do this it's the way that the Zealot does it. When the first time you make an attack using a quarterstaff in both hands on your turn.
Oh yeah,
would be another way to do it.
The first time, that would be maybe the right one. Yeah.
And I think that's how. That's how Zealot does it.
And then instead of you could say one additional.
Yeah.
I don't even think you need that far. I think if you say it's the first time, you should be fine. But anyway, overall, I think if we look at our rubric, you got space, you got flavor,
we got balance.
You got balance. I'm giving you design, but it sounds like Pete's not, so you got the half point.
I'm on the we'll call it the half. I'm down to call it the half, because the thing is like, this is at a point both in playability and design where it's like 0.9. Like, I'm so close on both of these.
So you're saying I can get either a 4.8,
like, legit, like in my own estimation, this is pretty close to like a 4.8, but the way the rubric works doesn't allow for that, so it ends up like, if we go by that, it's like
easy.
A 3.
Are you giving them the playability point?
No.
Oof. I think I'd also hold off on the playability point, just for the point of I can see where that frustration of the specific names. God, I hate that be like the name bullet being the reason, though. That feels like such a petty
it's a
reason.
Small thing, but I think you have to take it like
Traveler's Communion as a whole needs to be rewritten.
Yeah.
It's a playability issue. I'll take the point myself.
Yeah,
I'm the lich.
Power to you, Traveler.
But we know you're also a lich. You're just a secret lich. All right, well, folks, I think that's the boy then. 3.5 points out of 5. Pretty damn good for Lich's Lair.
Indeed.
I'll be back with it shortly.
But I'm very interested in this subclass. It's very cool.
Yeah, this is something I would 100% play.
And
I really like this on here.
And Blood Deuce, I know you've already noticed it, Farful in chat, but Blood Deuce saying, man, I might be incredibly biased, but I've liked all of Farful's homebrew that's been shared on this since we started doing Fantasy Labs. In my opinion, the man does good work. Thank you, Blood.
In my opinion as well.
It's so easy, and especially the way Pete and I come at things in Lich's Lair, right, to tear things apart a little bit. But it's really nice to to say something nice. We appreciate that very much. You sharing your positive sentiments.
We're getting into the fine detail. I think this is excellent content. I don't know if that score fully reflects, but
no, I think it does. I mean, like
here's the deal. I'll be back with it in when are we doing this next?
No, I mean, oh god, 2 weeks is the next Fantasy Labs. Right?
Yep. Not next week. Week after.
So we'll see it again on the 14th, hopefully in its finalized form.
I mean, hold on. I'm saying that, but if other people want to go, let them go.
Oh, I mean, just to show it off. I mean, we do that with the content.
Yeah.
Frosty Pirate, the liches, some of these playability issues harken back to a particular trash druid circle.
I don't know about that. I think her trash druid's perfect in every way.
I think it would be an interesting show at some point to go back and re-rate, because, everyone grows and learns over time. So it'd be interesting to reevaluate some of the D&D time content. But
I actually think that would be a lot of fun. We should do that next time if we don't have a ton of other stuff going on. But overall, thank you so much, Farful, for sharing. This is a very, very cool piece. This is the Divine Domain Travel for Clerics. Farful, I know this answer already, but where can people find your awesome content that you create? Should they wish to find more stuff that you have created?
I mean, DM's Guild, we've got stuff there. We got it. You want it? We got it. There's one thing posted, two things posted so far. But some of those things have more than one thing in it.
4 things.
Okay. I didn't realize you put them each separately. Okay,
yeah,
then there are
all separately.
There are 4 things total.
Crowley's College of Psychology is up in here. It's a great subclass, and I recommend you guys check it out.
And you can also find him on our Discord server. Links on.
Find me there. Yeah.
Links at dndtime.stream. Hit the big Discord word on the top nav bar.
I also recently started an Instagram for some reason.
Oh, what's your Instagram handle? If you want to share that.
You know what? Fuck it. It's Big Sports Crowley.
There you go. Big Sports Crowley on Instagram, known for his big sports.
I take terrible pictures of terrible things, some people will say.
Big Sports Crowley, thank you once more for joining us. And the Lich's Lair devours another soul.
You mortals, dare you to enter into the Lich's Lair?